Hey everybody! On this episode of Gaming Collecting, I'm once again solo hosting while Alex is away. But in the meantime, I've brought in a few guests to help us talk about this topic. From Gaming Together, we have Nave once again joining us. From the Top Teners, we have Liv once again rejoining us for an episode. And new to the show, we have Bill from A Gamer Looks at 40 to talk about the Uncharted series from Naughty Dog. It was an awesome discussion, and I hope you all enjoy. Roll the intro music. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Gaming Collecting Podcast. Things are a little bit different this week. Alex is once again on a dancing-related escapade, so she's doing something with that. She'll be back probably next week. But in the meantime, I have three wonderful guests who have decided to join me for this episode we're doing. We have Liv returning. She was last on our Sims retrospective we did way back in like a year ago, I want to say.
Oh, man,
we also have Nave joining again from Gaming Together. He was on one of our RuneScape episodes way back.
Of course I was.
And then we have a first-time guest on the show. We have Bill. We're gonna have two Bills in this, so this is gonna be a little confusing. We'll see how it goes. But I figure because Bill's been on the show for the first time, I'll let him introduce his show first. Then I'll go Liv, and then I'll go Nave. So, Bill, tell me a little bit about your show.
Oh, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. Thanks, host Bill. You can be host Bill, and I'll be guest Bill, and we can.
What I was thinking was like, you know how they have an evil version of you, and they just make the name backwards, but then your name would be Lib, which is too close to live. You guys really messed it up.
This is all a disaster. This was so poorly planned. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. My show is entitled "A Gamer Looks at 40." It's a nostalgic retrospective of the history of video games as told through the personal stories of the people who lived it. So the goal is to not kind of do reviews or things like that, but really get to the stories of the people behind the games and behind why we love these games. You know, those personal stories that are attached to this medium that if you're a 40-year-old person like myself, you have a lot of years invested in this medium. So that's what the game attempts to do, or the show attempts to do. I'm currently in the middle of or just starting a Final Fantasy series. So I am knee deep in Final Fantasy right now. So if you want to hear a bunch of people tell stories about the games they fell in love with as a kid, that's a podcast for you.
Nice. And Liv, so at the time we last talked, you had a previous show, which has sadly ended at this point, but now you actually were just telling me that you have a new show coming out. Would you like to share that as a little teaser?
Yeah, I'm very excited to work with my friend James over with Games with John and James. And together we are making a new show called The Top Teners, where we're going to argue, behind the scenes, we're going to argue about whose picks should make the definitive top 10 list of the said category. In the video game world, still the same genre, of course. And then we're going to do heavy hitting, and we're going to make a series out of that. So right now, our YouTube channel is up, but we're still in pre-production, but it's on the way. It's cooking. Let the chefs cook, as they say.
Nice. And Nave, would you like to share your show?
I'm one half of Gaming Together, a cooperative podcast. Me and my co-host, Philip, he tries to review games, and I try to make the episode as bad as possible. But this next episode that's coming out, that should be out by the time this episode comes out, will be a battle royale between a bunch of our guests that we had over the past few months. And Bill and Liv are both going to be included in that. So we get to see how well they do. I'll spoil it a little bit. You both do pretty well.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
Hopefully I'm not like a savage like I was in the Hunger Games episode. Because, my God. But, yeah. So, like I say every episode, though, how you guys been otherwise?
Man, I've been there's something in the air in Oklahoma right now. I don't know. It's like a sleeping disease. Everybody's been so tired and exhausted for no reason. It's the middle of like, what is this month even? February? I don't know.
March.
I don't know where we are.
March. We're in March. We're soundly in March.
Spring started a couple days ago.
Yeah. Oh, we lost an hour. I think that's really what it has to have been, is that I lost an hour of sleep. My
Am I
equilibrium.
crazy, or I thought this was going to be the last year that we're doing it, or is that just still like a meme?
They say this every year and they never change it.
Yeah, I've been manipulated by this as well because I didn't know.
Yeah.
I think spring is definitely here because I can't stop sneezing. I think it's under control now, but last week was so bad. I
Oh,
felt like
man.
I was allergic to myself.
Like if the people who are watching the video have seen me at least rub my eyes 15 times minimum, I just can't stop. I've taken allergy medicine and everything. It's over. I mean, honestly, that's probably it. The allergies are killing me.
Honestly, I thought it was spring until I woke up this morning. It was snowing out. So,
I mean, it got a little colder in Jersey, but it's not snowing.
And I live in Texas where it's always nuclear winter at all times. It is constantly hot, but it's actually very pleasant right now. For me, I had a weird situation yesterday where I'm a fan. I'm an old man. Probably I'm always the oldest person in the room wherever I am these days, which is great. It's kind of like a soothsayer. I'm like some sort of like wizard. It's really cool. I'm actually a big fan of this, and I'm a fan of the band The Decemberists. Have we heard of The Decemberists before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they have a new single out that came out. So on Spotify it comes up, new single by The Decemberists. I'm like, ooh, okay, cool. I start playing it, fine. I look at the time, it's 17 minutes long.
Oh,
and I look
wonderful.
at there, I go, oh, Colin Malloy, no, I don't have 17 minutes to listen to your song, sir. I have to stop it. That's like an EP in one track. Like that's not a single. That's a EP in one track. So that's where I've been for the last 24 hours, wrestling with the idea of a 17-minute single that a band released.
One thing that I thought you were gonna do this thing, because Spotify's been kind of being a little goofy with everyone's names and stuff like that. Like the band Sleep is like included in the sleep therapy category and shit like that. Like, but they are not. You don't listen to that to go to sleep. There's this band named Era, and they've been releasing singles for the past few months, and it's one of my favorite bands. And it said new album Era, and I was like, oh my god, what? It dropped, and the album art is like this lady from India. And I'm like, that's a really interesting album art. And then I listen, and it is an Indian like lady singing pop music, and I'm like, what in the fuck is this? And it's like there's an Era in India that released an album like last month.
Wow, fooled you. Definitely not what you're. Was it good? Was it?
It was amazing.
Okay, cool. All right,
I'm a believer now.
All right, right on.
It was a sign that you had to listen to it.
Yeah,
I was gonna say like today, like I was telling Liv before we started, I finished my 40. I worked 40. I've already worked 40 hours this week. Yay. But I've been just like, it's really sad when you've reached the point in life where like your most exciting part of the day is when you go to Costco after work. And I almost got run over by a mother chasing after her kid with a carriage. It was great.
That's how it works. That's how it works.
Just trying to buy toilet paper, and all of a sudden a lady just sprints by with a carriage, and I'm just like, it's like, oh, this is how I die. Wonderful.
Costco's no man's land. It's Black Friday there every day.
Rules do not apply. Rules do not apply at Costco. They do not.
Yeah. If you move the shopping carts to the side, there are like battle axes and maces so that you can defend yourself.
It wouldn't surprise me if they sold them there, to be honest. So
right. By the dozen.
Give out samples.
You get free battle axe. And it's like, okay. But yeah, so today's topic, this has been one I've been wanting to cover for a while. Haven't been able to because Alex doesn't care about this series in the slightest because it's not Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing. So for today, we're actually going to be talking about the Uncharted franchise. And Uncharted is one of those series that I've kind of found over the years, people either absolutely adore it or they just like don't care about it in the slightest. It is like a very kind of like 50-50 split there. Like I've never met a person who's been just like considered Uncharted like just okay. They're always either like it's the greatest thing ever or it's just meh. I don't like it. So I guess like before we go into initial thoughts, I guess a little backstory. Uncharted obviously is the third major franchise Naughty Dog created for Sony, following the Crash Bandicoot series and the Jack and Daxter franchise. It was also their debut on the PlayStation 3, so their first series in full HD. And it was also notably the first series they worked on following the departure of studio founders Jason Rubin and Andy Gavin. So it was basically a brand new team of basically like a lot of like the lower guys from Naughty Dog had stepped up and were essentially, this was their first real outing, and I think they made a pretty big impact in all honesties. But I guess we'll go around the room now and have everyone share their like thoughts on the franchise, like how they got into it. So I figure in order we'll go Liv, we'll kind of go clockwise. So we'll go Liv, Nave, and then Bill. So Liv, how did you get introduced into Uncharted?
So I played The Last of Us, and I thought I really like this game. I would like to play more of their games, thinking that I'm going to play Uncharted as if it's The Last of Us, which I was blown away that it's nothing like The Last of Us. You could run and gun through Uncharted, and I wasn't expecting that because I had just played their other game, which was so serious, and you need to be slow and calculated with how you're going through the level. And I thought it was great. I thought the first game was very cheesy, and I'll say I wasn't really sold at first. But then the second game, I decided, I was like, okay, I'm in, and I'm going to keep playing it. But I would say I was a little misguided as to what I was hopping into, and I wasn't actively seeking this type of game.
Nice. So Nave, how did you discover Uncharted?
Well, during the 360 gen, I was a vicious Xbox 360 fanboy. And so I hated everything Sony as a kid, in high school. I was so into it on the internet. And eventually my dad gave me a PlayStation 3. Whether it was stolen or not, no one knows. I didn't ask any questions. But it didn't come with a power cord. So I was thinking it probably was stolen. But after an eBay search, I got myself a power cord, and I got a bunch of the remastered trilogy games, and I ended up getting Uncharted 2, I think, because they didn't have the first one at GameStop, and I kind of held off on playing the Uncharted game for a long time, but whenever I did get around to playing it, I was stunned. I was like, oh my goodness, like, there's only a few 360 games that can hold a candle to this. And so I went and I ordered off of Amazon. I ordered the first game, and it is nothing like the second game. It is poo-poo compared. I did the opposite thing of what you're supposed to do, where you play the newer, better game, and then you go back to the old one expecting it to be like that because I was a dumb kid. But that was my experience. And then I never played 3 for a long time because I was like, oh, that was a fluke. That's my history.
Yeah, I can imagine going from 2 to 1 is a very unfortunate in the case of 1, because 1 is a good game, but my God, 2 blows it out of the water in every way imaginable.
I like Unfortunate Drake's Fortune.
Yeah.
Yes, very good.
So, Bill, how did you discover the Uncharted series?
I don't think I discovered it so much as it was thrust upon me by popular media and the internet. I mean, I think I played it as they were released. I'm different than Nave. I was a Sony guy for the longest time, and it was just one of those Sony exclusives. It was a reason to get a PS3, and I think when I got my PS3, probably not at launch, maybe a couple years after, that was just one of the games I knew I was just going to get. So I played them in order, and then as they got released, I played them. Bill, I may be the first person. I am one of those people who like these games, but I think these games have caused a lot of problems. And I think video game developers have learned bad habits from these games. So I have lots of mixed opinions on the Uncharted series. But as a popcorn action movie, I think they're fun and they're fine. I think they're fun and they're fine. But I definitely, going from 2 back to 1 is so hard, because 2 is a light year difference in quality than 1, and 1's fine. 1's a perfectly serviceable game, but not quite not quite 2. So but yeah, I played them as they came out. Yeah, again, I'm old.
So I guess for me it was kind of very similar in that regard, where I was a staunch Sony supporter, like PS3 day one. I playing my Sonic 06 because it was the only game out. Great time. And then because I had got the thing because Metal Gear Solid 4 was coming out for it, and I had to play Metal Gear Solid 4. And then kind of waiting on games to come out 2007 rolls by, and I see Uncharted with the Naughty Dog logo there, and I'm like, I know Naughty Dog, I can trust these guys. So I bought Uncharted, and the rest was kind of history from there. I fell in love with the series and picked them up with every subsequent release. So I guess we should start kind of from the top, and I guess start with Drake's Fortune. So this game is really interesting to me, as like there is like so many things like that I love about this game, but at the same time it is incredibly flawed in like a lot of ways, particularly the gameplay. I think the story still holds up very well. Like to me, like the one thing that I feel like the Uncharted series like stands up well, like for all the games, is the story. I think it's the gameplay where things kind of get a little kind of mixed up overall. But so what would you? We kind of talked about it over, but what do you guys think of Drake's Fortune overall?
It's no Gears of War. Which is what that was my like frame of reference for third person shooters. Is one of the primary things that made me upset, and I didn't really know that I couldn't articulate this as a kid, but when I played it again on the PlayStation 4 collection, where I was like, I'm a hardcore gamer now, I'm going to play it on the hardest difficulty, is that you can't corner peek like you can in Gears of War, where you stand there but you can see around the corner, and as soon as someone comes around, you blast them in the face with the double barrel, and laugh really hard because it's fun every time you do it. In Uncharted, the enemies shoot the camera, not Drake. So like if the camera can see the enemy, then you can take damage. And I was like, oh, this probably contributed to how it's way worse in the first game. They fix it quite a bit, and as the game series goes forward, I don't think it's present at all in the fourth game, but I might be wrong. But like that was something that like in the gameplay department, like a really small like niche problem that I noticed.
Yeah.
The gameplay wise, I'm not playing on the hardest difficulty. I mean, that is not my. I am not a hardcore gamer. I am there to experience the story and be a part of the story. And if I keep dying and I'm not progressing the story, I am not having fun. So I like to play on. I start at normal, and if normal's too hard, I'm going to drop it down to easy because I'm just having a good time. But the difficulty level doesn't help you when you keep jumping off the cliff and falling to your death, because you're like, I think I can jump this far, and then there's nothing to grab onto. So my biggest challenge in Uncharted 1 specifically was trying to gauge where I'm supposed to be going in some of these levels, because you think you could. I just climbed a cliff to get up here, so theoretically I should be able to jump to the next cliff that's right there. But no, you fall to your death in Ragdoll.
Yeah, you do like a baby jump and just go straight down. Like gravity's really strong in that cliff.
I think gameplay wise, it's a great first try. Again, if you'd played it of its time, it was unlike anything I'd seen on a console when I played it. And I remember thinking the gameplay was fine. I remember being hard. I'm also playing on normie. Yeah. I'm a normie player, and
to put it out there, I do not recommend playing this game on hard. It probably took 7 years off my life. How pissed off I was getting at it.
I remember lots of restarts and lots of getting shot twice and standing there and saying, "Well, I'm going to die." Stretch a bit, and let myself die and try again. But I remember really being taken by the cinematics of it, how the storytelling. It's a very simple game. The stories in Uncharted games aren't great, but they're fine. They're just like Indiana Jones movies. They're fine. We're not there for that. We're there for the big set pieces. We're there for the shooting. We're there for the action. But as far as the play goes, it's amazing how well 2 plays compared to 1. And we'll talk about 2. But I think 1 as a first try, as a first attempt, is really solid and strong. But it was going to get a lot better as later iterations came around.
I think like the best way to explain like how gameplay in Uncharted works is it's kind of like a hybrid of like 3 different styles. Like you have the exploration sections where you're kind of just like walking around, like talking to your other characters in the area. Then there is the platforming sections, which are to me probably my favorite of the 3 main gameplay sections, where you have to actually like climb through these like elaborate like different terrains, and like go through like you have to kind of use your brain a little bit and kind of like think certain things through because sometimes like you'll think you'll be able to get up a certain way, but like Drake will just kind of jump at the wall and won't do anything. But then like you kind of, I mean, they do kind of highlight certain things gold, like they'll let you know where to climb, but sometimes like it's a little bit hard to see. And then the third and my probably least favorite is the combat sections, which are just every now and then it'll be like, oh, there's a bunch of enemies, shoot them and to move on.
Yeah, it kind of goes from traversal to walking around to murder arena to walking around to another murder arena to then some more traversal, and it has those beats, and they're fine. One thing Uncharted I think has done a great disservice to the industry is that nobody can make a game now that doesn't have Uncharted style wall jumping and mountain climbing. After Breath of the Wild, why in Horizon Forbidden West am I still like looking for handholds and I can't just go where I want? It's madness. And I don't find the traversal in Uncharted very fun. It's just kind of holding left or right and letting the animation do its thing. And as the games go further on, they get worse at that because they're trying to make the animation so complex that I think it hinders the maneuverability. I've always liked the kind of like the dungeon crawling of it, and the combat is fine. It's more about those big set piece moments for me that are really fun and stand out. And one does deliver those in a smaller scale.
One good thing about the Uncharted combat, I would say, is that it really gives you so it's like a stark contrast between The Last of Us, like Liv was talking about earlier, where Last of Us is very you cannot really leave the cover. On Uncharted, there are moments where you do leave the cover and you go into this mad scramble. And like it is just so Nathan Drake, the way that you're like, oh god, I gotta get a gun. Oh no, what am I doing? Like the chaos that ensues once like a grenade lands at your feet. You're like, like I gotta stop. Like something has to happen now. The weird like because Nathan Drake is just so witty and like and fast that it makes sense that he has that style of combat in comparison to Naughty Dog's other big title.
One thing that I really appreciate Naughty Dog doing is a lot of the times you'll have like secondary characters with you, mostly for story elements. They don't really contribute much to the combat or the platforming, but one thing that I really appreciate Naughty Dog starting is the idea of your party members per se are basically invisible to enemies until you get spotted. Then they become visible. So you won't get an example of, say, like your party member running out in front of all the freaking enemies and then starting a combat thing when you were trying to be stealthy. Like, this is something that they carried over into The Last of Us, which I appreciate a lot, because there are so many times in Last of Us 1 where Ellie will just run in front of a clicker and I'll be like, I'll cringe a little and then I'll be like, oh, right, they don't see her until they see Joel. So you're fine.
Ellie, no, what are you doing?
Well,
I'm
there'll
so
be great
bad at being stealthy, so I didn't even really notice that because I walk into the room and I say I'm here.
Big sign.
Yeah, I can never kill like more than like 2 or 3 enemies stealthily, and my fiance will take like half an hour to play a level perfectly. She's like, I will stealth kill everyone, and if I can't do it, I will restart. And I was like, I don't care. Like, what are we doing? I'll die twice. Like, no, I'm not doing that.
I'm on Liv's team. So I love stealth combat. I really do. But the thought of going 20 minutes in an area and getting accidentally spotted and killed by like the second to last enemy, that will send me into a fury. Like I won't recover from it.
I will say one of my favorite moments, this is in The Last of Us, but it kind of applies also to Uncharted. One of my favorite moments of how the AI is sometimes really funny is I hit a point where like I had Joel like right behind a barrier, and it was right next to some stairs. And it for some reason triggered Ellie's animation to just run up and down the stairs repeatedly. So I'm hiding from clickers as Ellie's doing her stair training over in the corner. And I'm just like,
your steps in.
I'm just like, this is wonderful. And the same shit happens in Uncharted, and it's great.
You got to fill in those rings. I mean, when else are you going to do it, right? Might as well if you're sitting there doing nothing. And you're invisible to clickers. Why not? There is a little bit of jank in Uncharted. I don't think there's a lot of stealth though in Uncharted, if I remember. In the first one, they try to incorporate that in the later editions. I don't remember there being a lot of. I remember just running into fields and just hoping to find cover. If I can take out 3 people, then I know I'm good. lessen the amount because everybody's an exceptional shot. Everyone is just marksman quality shots.
Which really goes to show how well Nathan Drake is versed with shooting, man, because he's out shooting them somehow, and he's fighting a million of them.
So well, he gets to try multiple
firing
times.
from the hip. I'm just like, I'll hit someone somewhere. Like I have no strategy when I go to play Uncharted.
The strategy to Uncharted is just run in like Rambo unless you see snipers, then hide.
Yeah,
exactly how I play.
If you see a sniper laser, duck and cover because you're gonna get killed very quick.
If it looks like a level, it is a level. If it looks like lots of hiding spots, they're there for a reason.
Yeah, I love walking into an area and you just see a bunch of like waist high like barriers everywhere, and you're like, I wonder what's gonna happen here. And then suddenly,
you can thank Gears of War for that.
Snipers. So
clearly, the ancient Mayans were really into paintball because clearly this is what this was set up for initially.
Yeah. So we'll save talking about like stories for later in the podcast. I'm gonna move on to the next game, Uncharted 2. I have to say, like, comparing these like next to each other, this is like this is like Assassin's Creed 2 compared to Assassin's Creed 1. It's like the first one is fine, really good game. This blows it out of the water in every way possible.
Totally. Yeah, it's one of those like perfect sequels where they just take the thing and make it more of that thing.
I love Uncharted 2 so much. I might be getting ahead of myself, but that's probably my favorite in the entire series for multiple reasons. I thought the characters were stronger. I thought the narrative of the game was stronger. The dialogue is so much better than the first game. Something we didn't touch on is just, it's cheesy. It's so cheesy. Like Nathan Drake would say something and I just roll my eyes at him. I was like, I don't really like you. You're annoying. But I was like, there's supposed to be something about this franchise that everyone loves, and I'm going to stick around until I either give up or find it. And when I played this game, I was like, I found it. I understand why we're here, and I will continue to play because of this game.
I actually do really enjoy Nathan's character growth between 1 to 2, because like 1, he is hilarious. I love him in 1, but not because he's good, because he's just kind of like a goober the entire game.
Yeah,
he's a dork. He's a freaking history dork.
In 2, though, he takes a massive step in like terms of development. And one thing that Uncharted does, starting with 2, that I absolutely adore, is the false start that every game starts with, where you will start the game with a portion of the level that takes place like in the middle of the game at some point, and you're just kind of like, what the hell happened here? Like, because like Uncharted 2 in particular, it starts with you're literally in a train that's hanging off a mountain. And no context at all. You're just kind of like, what the hell's going on here? And then the game kind of does like a psych, and then you go back to the actual start of the game. And then it's great because later on there's a point where you're on a train and you're like, oh, I see what's going to happen here.
It's a really good storytelling device, and I think that's a big thing that Uncharted 2 does better than 1, is it ups its game when it comes to those storytelling devices. I remember that train scene vividly. That's one of my favorite openings of a game. I absolutely love being dropped into the middle of the action. Your hero is hurt. He wakes up. He's got a bloody side. He's in this train. It's falling. It's a wonderful onboarding into the game itself, into the mechanics, into the traversal, and all that fun stuff. But it's also just extremely tense and good, and it's a lot of fun. It's one of the better. I think it's my favorite opening of all the Uncharted games. Is Uncharted.
There, one big bummer about it though is that this is a nitpick, but like whenever you get to that part, you just replay the same thing, right? And that's supposed to be the tutorial. So you're like suddenly doing this really simple, basic thing that's supposed to teach you how to play the game, but like you're doing it again as someone who's been playing the game for like 4 hours now.
That's true. That's a good point. I don't remember that. Yeah.
I mean, if you only played it like once or twice, it's probably not a big deal. But it's like when I go back and play Resident Evil, what is it? The second first person one, so it's 8, I think. I'm going back and play that like every couple of months, and every time I get to the scary part where they take away your guns, I'm like, the first time I played it, I'm like, oh, this is the best part of the whole game. And then every subsequent playthrough, I'm like, oh no, it's this part where I can't shoot my infinite ammo grenade launcher. oh, this is so super fun. And so, like, I played Uncharted 2 like 4 or 5 times, and every time I got to that part, I was like, oh, look at that. It's the tutorial. It's a weird. It's just there's not many games that I know of that you replay the tutorial.
So I will say though, the one cool thing about the replay is Nate's dialogue is different.
Yeah, it is different,
which is a nice touch. Another thing too that I love about that sequence is Uncharted 2 was the first Uncharted to use the Havoc engine for physics. I think they wanted to showcase how much better the physics in 2 are compared to 1 with that sequence, because it is very noticeable from the start.
Yeah, everything is a step up. Everything. I mean, I don't want to say that Uncharted 1 is bad, but like it's a noticeable difference just from just one game.
Yeah, it's a noticeable evolution. They clearly had more time. They just fixed their mistakes and made things better, and that's what you ought to do in a sequel. Hopefully. So,
twice the set piece, twice the action, twice the Sully.
2 times the Sully. Yes,
we'll get to Sully later because I do want to talk about the characters in their own section because I love the characters in this franchise and I have a lot to say.
Go for it, man. Excellent.
So, 2 phenomenal game. Uncharted 3. This one gets weird. Like some people really like 3, some people prefer 3, other people find it kind of a step back. I'm curious, what are your guys' thoughts?
I kind of prefer it a little bit, even though I've only played it like once, and so, which is weird. So it's like I prefer 3. I should probably play it again because I've played, like I said, 2 like 5 times. So it's like, I don't know if I did prefer it, you'd think I would play it at least twice, right?
I like that we got to play as younger Nate in this one, going through and like how he meets Sully and stuff, which is cool. I'm so mad at Nate. I feel like I should just save that for when we talk characters. But I think this is enjoyable. Was it, for me personally, was it better than 2? No. But it's not like if I'm going to do an Uncharted replay, I'm not going to skip it.
I'm a step back on 3. I don't think it's. I think they Naughty Dog is always trying to be the top of the mark when it comes to animations and technology. They're kind of like Square Enix and Final Fantasy, where they're always trying to be the best, top of the mark, right? And I think the combination of high technology and high action and high gameplay really hit a nice balance in 2, where it swings too much in the corner of cinematics in 3. I don't find 3 plays as tight as 2. I remember a big deal with 3 was context. I think it was context specific animations where if Nate's against a wall, he'll put his hand out and touch the wall, or if he's roaming through a crowd of people, he feels his way through. Yes, thank you. Feels his way through the crowd, and I always remember playing it thinking, it's not working. It's not working. He's just going like this in his face, and no one's reacting properly, and like it kind of. We did too much technology for this immersion. And really, for me, 2 and 3, again, this is a good game. None of these games are bad, in my opinion. But for me, it got almost too silly. The line between what was believable that a person could do, escaping a falling train, that's a believable thing. But at the end of 3 has him being dragged by jeeps and also
I love it so much.
and it's ridiculous and bonkers. But for me, for some reason, it just didn't. I don't want a realistic Uncharted, but it got a little too Looney Tunes for me in that game. When I think actually 4 brings it a little back to center. So 3 is a step back, a minor step back for me. Still a good time, still fun, and they're improving everything. The hand-to-hand combat's much better in 3 than it is in 2 and 1. It's actually a viable thing you can do. But I feel like they just tried to make it too cinematic in the everyday gameplay, which was forcing me to play less, if that makes sense. I want to play the game. I don't want to hit the button and have Nate do his ocean moves, right? Swim. There you go. There again, swim through the environment. So it went too far that way. I think I was like 2 is a beautiful sweet spot for me.
It reminds me of it's like the Resident Evil fans, like the divergent of Resident Evil fans of the people who like 6 and the people who don't like 6.
Yeah.
And that's like the same type of argument because 6 is the epitome of silly. And boy, do I love 6 for it. It's like my favorite one, probably.
So one thing I do find about 3 that I think, like Bill had said, this game loves its set pieces like a lot. And because of that, there are scenes in this game that could very well have been taken out of the game and it would not have affected anything in the storyline. Like there's a scene where Nate is on a capsized sinking ship and you literally start in one area, go on this ship, and literally return to the same area. And that entire scene was pointless just to showcase, capsizing ship.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It was like, well, wouldn't this be cool? And they're like, all right, write something good for that. And then they came back like a year later, like, okay, what did we write for the ship? I don't know, man. I don't know. Where do we put it? I don't know. Just put a bunch of cool shit flying around and then make it like look interesting.
That
no
being
one will
said,
notice.
I love the sinking ship scene. It is great, but it has
Yeah.
no point in that story at all.
That's also like the worst part of the game if you're playing on a hard difficulty because, oh god, I don't even want to relive it.
The desert bandit scene with like the convoy, that's in hard mode.
Yeah, because there's like nowhere to hide. You're just getting shot. It's like, what are you supposed to do? I remember there was one of the it might have been Neil Druckmann or maybe it was just a dev high up in Naughty Dog, but they were talking about how if Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3 released in reverse order, that it would have the same like reverence. Like Uncharted 3 would be the one that people think are the better game. Like it was just whichever one came first. Like I don't remember what he was prompted by to say that, but
I mean, it wouldn't make sense story-wise, but so
maybe.
Before we got to 4, there was another Uncharted game that got released that not a lot of people played. A little game for the Vita, Uncharted Golden Abyss. Has everyone here played this one?
I played it one time.
I never played it. I never had a Vita, so that's the one I missed. So I'll bow out of this conversation.
Okay. So,
Liv,
what were your thoughts on Golden Abyss?
I played the Golden Abyss for the first time last fall when I was visiting my fiance in England. I borrowed her friend's Vita. I was like, this is the only Uncharted I've never played. I just want to borrow it for like the 2 weeks that I'm here, and I just want to like play it. It's very apparent that it is Ben Studio making this game.
Yes.
And I will preface this with that I really enjoyed Days Gone. I think that game is very fun. My problem with the way that they do narrative games is it's not what they excel at. It's there, but they're not very good at executing it. So my biggest gripes are, okay, we get to an area, I meet someone, or I pick something up, 10 to 15 second cutscene. I'm going to walk another 10 feet to round a corner, and now there's a 10 to 15 second cutscene. Days Gone does this like all the time. And it's just like, you could, if you want a cutscene, fine, but take the walking in between and condense it to one cutscene. So I thought it was fun. There's things about this game that I actually really, really enjoyed and wish were in other Uncharted games. But it's very apparent to me that they gave the license to another studio to make this game. What I did like was taking photos and adding it to your little book. I liked finding artifacts and just using the touch to like wipe them off.
Touch controls, yeah.
That's not like a Vita exclusive. We have touchpads that a lot of games don't use unless you want to open inventory or open the map. Why hasn't this been ported? Why did I have to borrow my fiance's friend's Vita to play this game? Like, it's not like anything on the Vita specifically is making, I mean, maybe the picture, the camera. I mean, like, I don't know. I just feel like that they made this game specifically to sell this console because Uncharted is a staple of like PlayStation Studios. But like, I really didn't need to do this. It's an ancillary story. You don't see any of the other characters. It's a completely separate adventure. And whether you play it or you don't play it, you're not missing a whole lot.
I liked how in the game, like the climbing, because the climbing is like the most boring thing to me in the game.
But you don't like doing this with your Vita back screen?
Well, that was the thing, is that I was like, oh, I could just climb with it. That's kind of neat. Like, the Vita doesn't, a lot of games don't use the pad in the back. So I'm like, oh, cool. I'm doing something with this, actually.
See, I loved doing that until I realized I could just hold up the button. I was like, oh, you don't even have to do it.
Oh, yeah. I just continued to do it because that pad, like, the Vita would be, like, decrepit and used, and then that pad would be pristine and mint condition still because nothing ever used it. So I'm like, whatever I can do to play with this back thing.
So the best way to describe Uncharted Golden Abyss is it is essentially, so it's a prequel to 1, so it's like there's no baggage that it has to jump right into it.
Nathan can't die. Get replaced by a skinwalker Nathan.
Graphically, the game is, the fact that it looks almost as good as Uncharted 1 is actually really impressive and says a lot about the Vita.
It looks so good. I was a Vita. I was in there for the Vita, man. I was so mad whenever it started to die. I was ready. I was ride or die for that thing.
I was a PSP person, so I didn't have the Vita.
As well.
One thing I will agree with Liv on is I am a massive Ben Studio defender. They're like one of my favorite like studios ever. Like I love Siphon Filter. Like I wish that series would come back. Probably never will, but that's besides the point. John Garvin, great writer. He's no Amy Hennig. Like that is a very clear difference there. Game itself though, very fun. It's just Uncharted on the go. It's like Uncharted Light, basically.
It's like a D&D one-shot of Nathan Drake adventure. It's like, here's an adventure. It could have been like a comic book, to be honest. I didn't really feel like it needed to be a game, which they do have an Uncharted comic book. There's like 6 issues, which I read. Again, just like a throwaway story that they kind of made. Doesn't really relate to the mainline games at all.
Yeah, speaking of the story, I don't remember. The only thing I remember from the Vita as far as story goes is the Easter egg when you replay the game. There is a guy, you're like in a room and it's like, oh, we need the treasure. There's a guy on that throne. You got to go over there. And they're over there talking. And the guy who's in the mocap suit goes, ah! And then scares the female voice actor who's doing the mocap. And she's screaming and she's like, go to hell, guy. Like, it's just a prank. And what's his name is laughing. It's like, go look it up. I described it
That's
poorly.
really funny. I didn't have time to replay it. I cranked it out while I was there, and then I said, okay, now I can say I played it.
It is a legit jump scare when you're playing it a second time, because you're not expecting something different to happen. But I wish more games would do silly things like that.
Golden Abyss, I'd say, is worth playing, but it's not required to truly enjoy the entire series as a whole. So now moving on, we had the wonderful collection. Highly recommend picking this up if you've never played any Uncharted games. Great ports. But as for the next game, Uncharted 4, Thief's End. So this game, I wasn't expecting, honestly. I thought Naughty Dog was going to do their classic 3 games and move on, which they did. But then they came back to Uncharted.
That's how good Uncharted is.
I mean, interesting thing about this game right off the bat, Amy Hennig had left Naughty Dog by this point, so this game was actually done by the Last of Us team of Bruce Straley and Neil Druckmann.
You can tell.
I think that so one thing I think is that the Amy Hennig wrote a lot of the stuff, and then when she left, they reused a lot of it and just like jumbled it around. So they did it in their own way, but a lot of the stuff, like the set pieces and stuff that she had written or something like that, were still there, just in a different context.
Well, I believe she was around at the start of production for 4, but she ended up leaving early on, so they took over. And this is definitely the darkest Uncharted. You can tell that right away.
You can tell, literally put the boxes in next to each other. It is physically the darkest one.
Well, I mean, we're going from the lightest to the darkest here. So.
Yeah, look at that. He's standing in the dark. It's so moody. It looks like a Call of Duty cover.
I kind of didn't like. I think Uncharted 4 was fun. I enjoyed it. But it doesn't feel like an Uncharted game to me. I shouldn't be sad, I'm supposed to be like getting treasure and having fun, and it's so apparent that the people that worked on The Last of Us were asked to work on this because they have this really dark story. And if we go and talk about the story from Uncharted 3, you already see that Elena and Nathan's relationship is on the rocks. And then he goes and he pisses me off in this game so much, and I'm yelling at him. I'm yelling at my TV. I was like, I'm so mad at him. And but what I did like about this game was the ending, and it perfectly wraps it up. And I don't want Naughty Dog to touch this story anymore in regards of Nathan Drake. Let the man rest. Let him have a happy family. Just enough. I thought this is my favorite video game ending. Usually, I'm deep in a series. So I'm like, I want another game. But this was the first game I've ever played where I feel satisfied. I was like, what we all just went through? I'm good. I am good.
They are 100,000,000% making another Uncharted game, by the way.
Well, I don't think that Uncharted. We'll get there.
They did.
They did, and it was great, and they should keep doing that.
Agreed. I agree with everything you said, Liv. I think it's Uncharted 4, I think I might like a little better than Uncharted 2 because I think it plays the best out of the 4. I think, again, from a play perspective, everything is now kind of humming along beautifully. The ending of 4 is fantastic. We have a story section. We'll talk about that. I really like 4. I think 4 is wonderful. It definitely improved on all the silliness of 3. It got rid of a lot of the like supernatural stuff and all the, again, very Last of Us, which I have mixed feelings about The Last of Us as well. But I'm just sick of The Last of Us. Can I just say it here? Because I don't have an opportunity to say this on my show.
Me and Bill are just going to be friends at the end of this. So.
I'm so sick of The Last of Us. I don't want to see the TV show. We don't need to
watch it. It's not for you.
It's not for me.
That's fine.
Go away.
That's fine.
My last podcast, I had to fight with Fruey every week. He's like, The Last of Us sucks. Everything sucks. I was like, so go back and play your 13-year-old boy games and play Left 4 Dead for the 16th millionth time then. Go play and blow stuff up mindlessly and not play the story. We would fight about this regularly.
I don't get a chance. I talk about old games on my show, so I never get a chance to talk about this. Last of Us is fine. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of seeing it. I'll revisit it in 10 years.
Take your glasses off and close your eyes. Okay.
I have the opposite problem on my show where at this point it's become a meme on my show. It's like, oh, Nave hates The Last of Us, which is not true. It's not actually true, but I'm leaning into the meme to the point where guests will come on and they'll ask me when something comes up with The Last of Us, like, oh, Nave, you hear this thing? And I'm just like, oh God, we got to talk about this again.
I think, I guess maybe The Last of Us has become my BioShock Infinite. I guess that's how people now, when they're on my show or on other people's shows, how much I loathe that game. And I think it's bad. It's actually genuinely a bad game. We won't get into that because we're talking about Uncharted now. Uncharted 4 is great. And it does have one of the best endings. It's up there as far as like top video game endings because it just feels like it's over. Like this story is complete. We're not leaving hanging participles for other things. And yes, we have another game, of course, to talk about. And I think mechanically it's so sound and everything is kind of just humming along really well. And I like the more grounded emotional story beats. I like the more emotional stuff. That really was another side of Nathan Drake other than just being like this the kind of the cocksure adventurer type. It was really cool to me.
I feel like it was super important to go through the dumb young full of cum Nathan Drake before getting to 4 though, because if it was just like Uncharted 1 then Uncharted 4, that wouldn't be nearly as impactful as having like this dumb goofball the whole time through, and then suddenly he's getting confronted with real life problems. Like things are really starting to fall apart in an untenable way, and it's like, and you're getting to watch this guy go, oh, maybe I should grow up a little bit as he's like wanting to go out and hang out with the boys. It's like, it's such a relatable story, even though he's doing outlandish stuff. And I do like, I don't, it's like, okay, the game is very like grim in a lot of moments, but I think that there's a lot of like poetry to that. And that's just something that the Last of Us team is just really good at, is like that kind of poetic, like horseshoeing back around kind of thing.
No question.
But I think that it's funny that you guys were talking about, the story's over. It's an end. It's so satisfying and it's really good. But when I got to that end, which is, again, like you guys said, one of my favorite endings to a game of all time also. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, they're making another one. Look at that cliffhanger. And so you guys were like, that's final. No, there's no more. And I'm like, oh, I can see how they're going to continue this.
So why
in a
did
very
you feel
natural
like
way.
it was a cliffhanger? Why did you?
Can we
why
talk?
Did you
Can
feel
we talk about it? Bleep me if this is too much.
Wait.
Gonna.
Let's save it. I'm gonna put up a spoiler wall when we get to story. Let's save it for when we get to the story segment.
Okay.
Bill
okay.
saved your asses, listener. Bill saved you. I was one word away from a spoiler.
Okay. Yeah, we'll save it for that because I'm gonna put a spoiler wall. We've a few things here and there, but nothing major. I'm gonna put a big spoiler there for people listening.
Liv, write a note. Remind me to answer that question because I'll forget.
Okay. Yes. I will. We'll circle back to that.
We'll put a pin in it.
So, for me, Uncharted 4, honestly.
Hold on, wait. It's funny because the question is about a cliffhanger, and we just left the listener on a cliffhanger.
Yep.
Very meta.
I had to get that out. Okay.
Very meta.
Okay.
Well done.
I love that.
So for Uncharted 4, like when this game was announced, I was kind of like, oh, they're doing another Uncharted, cool. And I was like, I'll buy it day one, which I did. And I'm not gonna lie, this is my favorite entry in the series. Like
Mine too.
it's actually almost my favorite PS4 game in general.
Mine too.
I loved this game from like the second I started playing it. I could not put it down. It was actually similar to like my experience playing the original Last of Us, where the second I started playing it, I just could not stop because I had to know what happened.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of like Straley and Druckmann's like writing style is they keep you interested the entire way. And at first I was thinking like this game has like one of the biggest cliches ever right at the start. How are they going to make this work with the whole cliche of basically like,
Yeah.
oh, his long lost brother shows up out of nowhere. One of the biggest cliches ever. They made it work. Like,
Such a good character. Such a good
He's so
character.
good. And he's
Awesome.
so fleshed out, and
Yes.
he's got so much baggage, and it makes it so much worse for Nathan. It pulls him in many directions, just his influence. Oh, it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they nailed everything in this game as far as I'm concerned. We'll get into it when we talk to story later and in the end about how much it did. But like to me, like this game from beginning to end was like the perfect conclusion to the Uncharted series until it wasn't, because we have one more game. Uncharted Lost Legacy. I love this game as well.
It's great. It's great.
I love this game. I loved it.
Yeah. I always considered it more of like just an expansion, but
So it kind of is. It's a very short game. It's only like 10 hours, I want to say.
And I think he's right. Yeah.
And they sold it at a discount, which was very nice because you could, I think it was like $20, $30.
yeah.
I finished it in a sitting. That's how quick this one goes by.
Wow.
So Lost Legacy, essentially, for those who don't know, this is essentially it tied up all the loose ends that kind of got forgotten at the end of 4, particularly Chloe Fraser and what she was doing after 3.
What Naughty Dog did was they went to a Reddit thread of people complaining and just wrote everything down, and they're like spitefully made a game.
And I will say, aside from like one brief mention, Nathan Drake does not appear in this game at all. His story is done after 4, and they moved on to.
And it works.
It really did.
I hope, like, I don't know if they're gonna make another Uncharted. There's like this huge rumor that there's like gonna be another one but by a different studio, and I just want more of them. Like they have all this. These people have all these baggage. Or bring Sam back because he shows up. Just like let the 3 of them go around and like do stuff. I'll play the shit out of that.
Yeah. That's what. So when looping back around to what we were talking about at the beginning, I forgot about this, but now I remember. A lot of people play Uncharted for the gameplay. A lot of people play it for like the puzzle solving. I don't know who plays it for the puzzle solving, but there's a bunch of different reasons to play Uncharted, and mine isn't particularly the story. I couldn't care less about much of the story. I love the character interactions and the way that they talk and banter and do all of this stuff. Like the people are so lived in. Is even in 1, it's kind of still there in 1, but in 2, it's all over the place. Like they are so lovable. like Nathan Drake and Sully, and it just, you get to love these people as you go on, and when you get to the end of 4, all of that love is just the reverence that the studio has for these characters is just on full display, and that's probably why I hold 4 in such a high regard. Was not really the story, but because of how much love was shown to the characters.
No,
I have so
100%.
much I want to say about this game, but I have to wait for the spoiler.
Dude,
Because
me
I'm gonna,
too.
I'm gonna have you guys laughing at how ridiculous like something I'm gonna say is.
Awesome.
So, any other thoughts on Lost Legacy before we move on to the spoiler section?
Sure is a game.
I like the trophies in this game. They're very fun and silly. Like, there's a trophy for driving a Jeep off the waterfall, or climbing to the top of the tower and doing a yoga pose. Driving from one point driving between 2 locations in like less than 3 minutes. I felt like the trophies in this game were kind of fun. If you just wanted to make the game a little longer by doing silly ancillary stuff that had nothing to do with the story.
Wasn't Uncharted 4 the one with the trophy that the stage fright trophy?
I think so.
So the story behind it was either 3 or 4. I can't remember which. I'm pretty sure it's 4. But so during an E3 conference, they had a live demo, and the live demo didn't work. So the character, so Nate just stood there for like 2.5 minutes, and the trophy is for standing there exactly how long he stood there during the E3 conference in that part of the game.
That's cute.
It's like insanely cute. I love it. I love stuff like that. Have fun with your trophies. They're there. You have to put them in your game. You might as well do cool things. Come on.
Actually,
a
I
lot of
love
fun.
the silly ones. I love the silly ones.
Oh yeah.
The best part about that E3 fuck up to me is the fact that it actually justified Naughty Dog's whole claim that this was actually in-game footage, because everyone was complaining that it was just CG and they were faking it, and then they showed an actual technical glitch and everyone's like, "Oh no, it is real."
Yeah,
Damn,
we
it
can
looks
blame you can blame Sony for all of that because of the fucking Killzone 2 thing that they did where they faked the gameplay with CG. Oh, I could go on a rampage about that.
Yeah, that's true. One last thing on Lost Legacy I want to bring up. This is more of a gameplay thing. This game has one segment in it that none of the other games really have that I think is really interesting. Is in the middle of the game, there is one section that is literally this giant open like hub, and you kind of do a whole bunch of tasks all around this central hub before you move on to the rest of the game. And it's such a cool idea and like area of exploration. And I kind of hope if we do get another Uncharted that they expand on that idea, because it was just such a cool design.
Yeah, Gears of War 5
tested it out. Oh, sorry, go on, Nate.
It's not important. I was gonna say Gears of War 5 just straight up ripped that off. Like they were like, "Oh, do that." They were just taking notes from Naughty Dog.
I felt like Uncharted 4 they tested that out with where you drive around with the Jeep, but it was like wide but narrow, and this was big, like a huge area, and then they took that and brought it into The Last of Us Part 2, where you have like the day 1 Seattle with Ellie, and you could go have like, oh, I love that game. So I really like that because it's that's where all the fun trophies were too. So
it was just kind of cool. Like you didn't have to follow a linear path, which is something that this series is kind of known for, as being incredibly linear. That was a very open-ended, like you could kind of, it wasn't open world truly, but it was kind of like a semi-open kind of thing where you could do all these tasks all in your own, basically as you please before you move on. It was neat. I really liked it.
If you do all of the tasks, they do reward you with the bracelet to like know when collectibles are nearby to interact with.
Plus you get a ton of great dialogue just by exploring that area.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about the games. Now we're going to spoil them rotten here. So anybody who has not played Uncharted, the fact that you made it this far, props to you. But this is where I'm going to say we're going to cut you off here, because we're going to spoil all these games, and these are very plot-heavy games. So basically, stop listening now, play the games, and then come back and finish. So
that's how you double up on downloads right there.
Right. So Uncharted, we should start with from the beginning. The games kind of revolve around Nathan Drake, who is a explorer, I guess you could say.
A misanthrope.
Yeah. when these games came out, they were very commonly like the running joke was, oh, it's Tomb Raider, but with a guy. It's Dude Raider. Don't look that up, by the way. Just trust me. Which is hilarious because the later Tomb Raider games basically became Uncharted. But
yeah,
Great, basically.
poetic.
But yeah, we kind of followed the adventures of Nathan Drake and his partner Victor Sullivan as they go through all these different adventures. He later meets like side characters like Elena Fisher and Chloe Fraser, as we met later. And each game kind of has like one central like kind of like treasure like discovery, like Shambhala's in one of them. Like there's like the pirate treasures, all these different like actual treasures, but the game kind of plays around like with the whole idea behind them. And the games are kind of built around that overall. So out of
that. Someone's bumping behind me. I hope that's not getting picked up.
It's not.
It's like vibrating my whole house.
You're all good, Dave. So out of the, I'm gonna take Golden Abyss out of the equation here because it's a very different writing style. Out of like the main stories, which one would you guys say is probably your favorite?
4, I think, would be for sure. Yeah, again, I really appreciated that the character study. And Dave, again, you put it perfectly. This game thrives off the strength of its characters and their character interactions. So, and 4 is the best example of it. So I think 4 is by far my favorite of the stories. But again, the story is not what I'm really here for per se. I'm here for the characters, like you said, Nave, and I'm here for the insane jumping off of crumbling buildings and fun set pieces. I'm here for popcorn. I'm here for popcorn action, and it always delivers.
I'm quite partial to 4 as well, but I don't know if that's recency bias because I can vividly remember a lot of 4, but there's like a 5-year gap between 4 and 3, and then there's like a year gap between those and a year gap. It's like, I don't know. That's probably infecting my brain a little bit.
I Uncharted 2 I think is my favorite in the series. It's probably I really like Elena Fisher's character. And the fact that because of the narrative of 4, she's not included as much, and Nathan's being a douche, I feel I was mad at him the whole time, and I think that kind of impacted how I felt about that game. But I think the gameplay is the best in 4. My favorite parts of that game were driving around the Jeep, and when you get to drive around the boat. Like, I had a lot of fun playing that game. But I think it's most polished, and then you get like the ancillary piece that is the Lost Legacy. And I really think that like you could really kind of just group that into one because there's not any real upgrades over that.
No.
So I would say that it's like Uncharted 2, and then like Uncharted 4 is like right here.
I'm pretty close on that too. I think probably like because on 3 the story is like I don't even remember what happened at 3. I only remember set pieces. So I'm like, okay, so that couldn't have possibly been so thought provoking that I can't remember anything.
So one thing about these games that like, so we've mentioned that the characters are really like the biggest part of these games, and like kind of like the driving force of why people love these games so much. To me, one of the main reasons why these characters work so well is their excellent voice work. Like Nolan North as Nathan Drake. Like Nolan North was pretty big before Uncharted, but I'm pretty sure this game cemented him as like probably one of the greatest voice actors in video games.
Yeah, because every time I hear him, I'm like, oh wait, that's Nathan Drake. I don't even remember Nolan North. I just remember Nathan Drake.
Emily Rose as Elena Fisher, like she nails it. Like my favorite part is like, apparently she came in with a friend who was auditioning for the role, and they ended up her chemistry with Nolan North was so good that they ended up giving her the role instead.
I
believe.
That's good.
I
love it.
And then my personal favorite is Richard McGonagall as like Victor Sullivan. Like,
oh man,
any scene he is in, he just like chews the scenery and steals the show. He is such a great character. Like, even though they fake out killing him like 3 times throughout the series, and
I fought for it every damn I hate
Same,
myself.
same,
I hate
same.
myself.
Same.
Like Kiryu dying in Yakuza, and then
Same.
I still cry, even though it's not true.
See, they killed him off twice in Uncharted 1. And like we fell forward both times.
Totally.
I did.
Well,
And then
you're like, surely they wouldn't do it again.
And then they do it in 3, but 3 is so believable. Like, but even though you later find out it was all hallucination. But
Right.
there was also like great scenes like Elena's near death at the end of 2, where like
Cried.
I thought I did too. I thought like that was where she died, and I was like, oh great, like they're gonna kill the love interest in the second game, of course.
Yeah, which I had no context, so I was like, well, this is awful. This hurts me a lot. But I
will
I
say
didn't know.
that confused the hell out of me at the start of 2, because like you start 2 and it's like Elena's not here, and you're with this new girl named Chloe.
Mhm.
What's going on here?
I'm so mad.
Oh yeah, I was like scandalous. Whatever this shit started. There's the other girl, and she's like, what is it? She doesn't have a ring on or something. Or am I thinking of 4?
Third,
you're thinking of,
third game,
3.
they have they tease that they're on and off again because Nathan Drake is not a faithful man. He's just like, oh, I'm going on an adventure. Well, you could die. You dick. Oh.
See,
He like doesn't get that. Nathan Drake, okay, like isn't a good person. I'm just gonna say he's not a good person. Can you imagine?
Is it because he
trying
killed
to
annoying
marry
people?
like, murder aside, can you imagine being in a relationship with someone who's like, okay, I'm gonna go, like, he's not going around the corner to get milk. Going around the corner to get milk is him going to Africa and then mountain climbing and then shooting a bunch of people, and then like he might come back, but you don't know. Like you're just supposed to like wait around.
Came back
for him
with
to
the
come
Eye
home.
of Horus. What am I supposed to do with this?
Like you're supposed to like. I couldn't imagine putting up with him. Elena deserves better, but I love their dialogue together. And,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like I should be going to bat for Elena. I'd be like, you deserve better.
the scene
Leave
where they
that.
make up in 4 is like one of the most heartwarming scenes in the game.
Oh,
it's so good.
totally.
It is.
Totally.
When
It
she-
is. Oh.
When she fakes him out that she's dead is the greatest thing ever.
So great. It's so
Oh.
wonderful.
Because
Yeah,
he gets so
wonderful.
upset. He's like, no, you can't do that to me. And she's like, well, I just did.
She's like, you've been doing this to me for every year for the past, like, you know, every few
Yeah.
months. Oh.
It's just like they know each other so well, and the writing like backs that up like perfectly, and the chemistry, like you guys are saying, between Nolan North and what's her name, it's just wonderful. Like it's wonderful. It's like they're literally sitting there just talking for 10 hours, and they're like, just clip these sentences together to make a conversation that makes sense in the context of Uncharted. Like that's what it feels like.
I'll say too, like when they introduce Chloe in 2, you're kind of like, especially if you're like a huge fan of Elena, you kind of at the start you're kind of like you don't want to like her, but then you play the like a few minutes and you're like, she is such a great character too, so you kind of have to like her as well. And then you get to later in the game and you realize, oh, they're both great characters.
I love playing as her in The Lost Legacy.
It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
One of my favorite lines of dialogue is when you in 2 when you rerun into Elena again, and they meet, and Chloe's like, "Who's this?" And Elena's like, "Elena Fisher, last year's model." It's like,
I love Elena Fisher. Favorite character in the series for me.
she plays Crash Bandicoot in 4.
She does play Crash, dude. I loved that, and the fucking end of the game.
Yeah, can we
when
go
it's-
back to that cliffhanger?
Oh my
you
god!
Think? What
Okay.
cliffhanger did you see there?
So they play Crash Bandicoot, which is homage to the earlier time when Elena and Nate were playing Crash Bandicoot, but then it's revealed that Elena and Nate have a daughter, and the next Uncharted game is gonna star her. I will bet my life on it. The next Uncharted game is going to be the adventures of I forget her name, the daughter of Nathan Drake, Cassie Drake. Yeah,
Dude, that's not a cliffhanger. You know, I don't feel like that's a cliffhanger. I feel like it's going to be a separate story. If it's like, do you think she's really gonna bring her like 60-year-old dad on a mission?
I think
we're gonna watch Nathan Drake die. I just feel like I don't know.
Nathan Drake is bringing his 60-year-old dad figure on his journeys.
No.
He keeps trying to not. He's trying to sneak out. He keeps trying to sneak out in 4, and it's like not working.
Here's what's gonna happen. Cassie's gonna bring her 90-year-old grandfather along with her.
There you
That's
go.
what's gonna go.
Yeah. What I think might happen if I want to just throw out a theory. What I want to happen is Cassie is the protagonist, and instead of Sully, it would be Drake's brother, who obviously wants to keep doing this stuff. He's just going to take the Sully role and take Cassie along with them. And then that's going to wrap Nathan back into another adventure somewhere halfway through. And they're going to go and get into shenanigans. And then maybe Elena gets mad. I think that's
No,
in my head
I don't want her to be mad anymore. She deserves peace.
She deserves a peaceful. Yeah, she deserves a night's rest and a husband that comes home. Like, hey, honey, I'm on to El Dorado. Bye.
Okay,
This was
for what I wanted, for the next Uncharted game, is I felt like the Lost Legacy kind of like grouped the three of them to be the next group with Nadine Ross, Chloe Frazier, Sam. But I'm gonna make you laugh. Okay, so going into this game, I thought it was spoiled to me that Nadine and Chloe get together. I thought that. We'll circle back why. So they get into that huge fight where Nadine punches her in the face, and she was like, "It's raining." And I said to myself, they're not really leaving a lot of time for them to fall in love. Like, when does this happen? So then it doesn't happen. And I was like, why do I think that? Why did I think this? So I go through Naughty Dog's Twitter, and they showed a Christmas card of under a mistletoe, Chloe and Nadine. They put that thought in my head, and I'm playing this game, and Nadine is so mad at me this whole game. I was just like, so when do we kiss? Like, I don't feel like it's fitting. And then after the game, we roll credits, and I was like, so nothing in the, like, so I feel like you misled me.
I thought you were gonna say you were getting because this is like an expansion to Uncharted, and then there was an expansion to The Last of Us that had Ellie as the protagonist. I thought you were confusing those.
No, they literally, it's still on their Twitter. You just have to go back to like 2016 to find it. I did a lot of digging because I was like, why do I think this? I was like, I looked through my messages with my fiance. I was like, did you tell me this? She's like, no, you played this game before I did. I was like, okay. I was like, so why do I think this? And it's because they posted a Christmas card that alludes that to them. I mean, there's a lot of flirting, go back and forth. But I was like, we're not kissing yet. And I'm confused when this is supposed to happen.
I will say, I love the ending of Lost Legacy where it's literally just Chloe, Nadine, the little girl from the start, and Sam just eating pizza, and they just dump on Sam the entire time.
So I hope that, like, if we do get like a Lost Legacy 2 or something, it's with the three of them. I don't want Nathan and
they had
Elena
a really
to
good
get divorced.
chemistry.
They do.
They do.
I agree with that.
And going back to the voice acting, Claudia Black and Laura Bailey are very talented, and Sam with Troy Baker. I mean, it will sell.
Yeah,
God, that's the biggest issue that I have is that whatever the next Uncharted is, I don't think Sully's gonna be there for the most part, and I'm just sad about that. It just hurts me a lot. And the worst thing, it's like if they do the thing that I'm talking about, and then towards the end, you go with your dad and visit Sully's grave or something, I'm gonna fucking die. I will turn into dust right there. Like I won't survive that.
I have to say, Uncharted 4 also, there's a lot of things I love about Uncharted 4, like particularly the beginning opening scene where you play as young Drake and young Sam, like which we
Sounds
needed.
like a rap group.
We needed
Little
that we needed that desperately though to like introduce Sam, because like at this point, like I said, like he was like literally the cliche brother, like lost brother from nowhere.
Yeah, so Nathan Drake marries Elena and doesn't mention that he thinks his brother's been dead. She goes, "You had a brother?" I was like, "How are you married to this piece of shit? Like that's like a basic fact about your life that you would share."
Yeah.
He infuriates me.
Well, to be fair, I got a few half brothers I've never met before. I wouldn't recognize them either.
I was gonna say though, like one of my favorite parts of Uncharted 4 is the opening segment where right after Nate does his little like recovery dive with his new job, he's up in their attic and he's basically being a giant goober playing with a little pop gun thing, and if you look around that room, it's all references to 1 through 3, and I think there might have been a Golden Abyss reference in there. But like you look at all these pictures, like you see the little his buddy when he was in the snow area in 2. He's there, like he makes like a comedy like, oh, I miss you, old friend, which I just love stuff like that.
Yeah, when Cassie breaks into their the closet at the end in the epilogue, and she's like, "Why is this a gun holster?" She's like, doesn't know her parents. That's great too.
It's good. It's nice to have those like victory laps because, like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is like what Yakuza's called now, is Like a Dragon. They do that as well quite a bit, where there are moments where you can reminisce on like the old games, and it is such an awesome victory lap for people who have gone through all of the games. And so I really love the end of Uncharted 4. Is such a great bow on Drake's story.
I love any ending that lets you like walk around and explore it at your own pace. Like,
good point. Yep, I agree with that totally.
Like you can just bum rush it and go right to the end and miss everything, or you can explore every nook and cranny of that like house, which I did, just to see all the Easter eggs and little references.
Oh,
And Nathan Drake is
wedding album.
Oh yeah, so sweet.
Nathan Drake is the person that would hoard all of that stuff too.
Yeah.
So it's like it's totally within his character to have all of that stuff lying around.
Cassie's little comments are great too, because she like mentions like all the like my favorite is like the picture of Sully holding her as a baby, and she clearly like just relieved herself, and like her response is like sorry Sully, like, stuff like that. Like it's just it's a great. I love everything about 4. So I kind of wanted to go into like set pieces now, like from the series, like because one of the things Uncharted is most known for is its set pieces, and like every game has the very specific ones that just kind of like stand out above all else. Like for me, like Uncharted 1, like one of my favorite scenes besides the zombie apocalypse at the end, it comes out of nowhere. I love the random German like submarine you find like in the middle of the forest, and you can explore, like
So
playing.
That's the first time Sully died.
Yes. If you're playing the Nathan Drake collection on PS5, it looks so good. Like they cleaned it up like so nicely. Stuff like that. Like Uncharted 3 alone is nothing but set pieces. Like
yeah.
Nave alluded to it. He's like, I don't really remember the story, but I remember the pieces, and it's so true because some of those even like made it into the Uncharted movie. With the cargo bay fly, the airplane, and I feel like
first thing I
Uncharted
think
3 has. Yeah, I feel like Uncharted 3 probably has the most memorable set pieces.
They made it the cover of the game.
Yeah.
Well, it is just so like it's the exact same feeling I had when I started that for the second game and was on the train. I was like, this is incredible. And then I got to the third one having that memory and still going, this is incredible. Like somehow it's just like it, even though I expected some crazy stuff to happen, I was still completely blown away, which I think is why it's even more memorable in my mind than the Uncharted 2. Not that it's better than the set piece in Uncharted 2, but that I had a huge expectation and it still blew me away.
Yeah.
In Uncharted 3, one of the scenes that will always stick out to me like forever is the scene where right after the plane crash and you're just in the desert, like Nate is like dying from like heat stroke, and he's just wandering around trying to find an oasis.
He's got like a shirt on his head or something.
When I first played this on PS3, the PS3's fans just went like during that part, and I was just like, I'm like, the PS3 is fucking dying trying to render all this shit. Oh,
I love in Lost Legacy. I believe it might be towards the end with the train. There's a section where you're chasing after a train, and I remember that being really interesting because, again, forgive me if my memory is fading on it, but I remember you can either like be on your vehicle or you can do it on foot. There's like a lot of variety in that, so it felt like it didn't feel as scripted as the set pieces usually feel. Most in Uncharted, especially, they feel like you run in the right direction and don't miss a jump and you'll make it through okay. Where that one felt really lively and varied, where I could approach it different ways. Or if it was scripted, then it felt very natural. remember that one being a really good, fun scene from Lost Legacy.
To me, the Uncharted 4 to me was like the game where I truly discovered just how much more powerful the PS4 was compared to the PS3. Like
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
one of the scene that I always think of like in my head that really like made me realize how mind-blowing that game was there's a scene when you finally get to like the pirate sanctuary village.
Mhm.
There is a point where you're kind of going through like all the different like treetop house like homes that they built. And if you look in the background, you can see more of them like just sitting there. And then like an hour's worth of gameplay later, you realize I'm in that background segment. There was no loading. Like it's all one giant rendered world. And
Crazy.
that blew my mind because like PS3, like there was very clever trickery at work to kind of hide stuff like that.
Yeah, squeezing through tight gaps and stuff. The climbing masked loading. It's like developers do come up with those cool ways, but then eventually when the populace catches on, like Mass Effect's elevators, it's like it's cute until it's overused, and then like games are still infected by it because like with the PS5 and the Xbox Series game consoles, you have those SSDs and they make the loading like basically minimal, but games are still being made for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, so they still need to do the squeeze through the tight thing for a while to load the next room, even though the next room got loaded a second ago.
I mean, like to me, like somewhat related because the the writer for this game was also Amy Hennig. My favorite of all time is still Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, where like you'll notice that game has a lot of really long hallways for no reason.
Yeah.
It's like, I wonder what's going on here. So I'm trying to think other like major set pieces that like really stuck out. Like, anyone have any other ones they want to bring up before we move on to another topic? Or
The Yetis.
oh,
Yeah.
Where I was like, this isn't real, and then I'm like, oh, I think this is real. Like, I think they're
I
really
had the
doing
same
it.
kind of feeling. I was like, I'm not really sure if this is really happening. I do like that they did move away from the supernatural stuff
yeah.
because it kind of felt random. I
Yeah,
didn't
'cause
feel like it
all-
belonged.
The first three games all had one of those like random like supernatural like what the hell moments, like the zombies in the beginning in one, the Yetis in two, and then three had like the weird like spirit people, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I feel
spirit
like
people.
in that game it made the most sense because they're going to like a lost civilization. But like the first game, I was like genuinely scared. I was like, "What is happening right now?" I like in that level, I was so lost. I could not figure out how to get out of there. And those things, once you kill them, they just keep respawning. So I fought those
Yes.
things for like half an hour because I couldn't figure out where to freaking go.
So another topic I wanted to bring up, because this is something that the series is kind of infamous for, is this series has some very jank boss fights, like final bosses in particular.
Oh man,
First one is
That's
so
great.
boring.
Oh, the final boss
Huge.
of Drake's Fortune is literally a cutscene, basically.
It was so boring. I'm going from one box to one box, and when you are in between reloading, I'm gonna go and punch. I was like, that's the boss fight.
that was
Not
a
great.
problem with Naughty Dog for a while, is that they didn't understand that you could make a video game and not have boss fights in it. Like
Yeah,
the Uncharted
don't do it.
games, none of the boss fights you are necessary. Like especially
Uncharted 4 has a good one though. The sword fight in the burning pirate ship is fucking epic.
Oh yeah,
That's cool.
Well, I guess that
That
is
is
a
cool.
boss fight. I guess it's weird because
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a boss fight. There's no health bar, goober. But I'm like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Why did I think that? But I really particularly hate, and I think it's in 2 or maybe it's in 3, the immortal guy, who's like the big
Two.
bad guy, and like I don't even remember how you fight him.
Zarovich.
But
Oh my
I'm like,
God, I
this
hated
is
that
the
fight.
most jarring thing I've ever experienced in a game, where like suddenly there's an immortal guy. Like it makes no sense. If anyone's immortal, it's Sullivan because he's died 3 times.
Well, he appears very briefly in Uncharted Golden Abyss, and he actually gets taken out of the game's plot because he hurts his back. So
Man, that must have been so minimal. Like I don't remember him showing up.
So there's a scene in the middle of Golden Abyss where Marissa Chase kind of like runs off because her and Nate don't like each other to start. And you get in Sully to rescue her. And there's a point where you're in a canoe going down a hill, and you have to use the Vita's like motion controls to steer the canoe.
Yeah.
I've heard about this. I heard, yeah. Didn't experience it, but I heard about it. Yeah.
It's like very short, and then Sully goes away again, and you're kind of like, yeah, man.
I don't even know why they paid him. I think we could have canoed by ourselves.
Well, I'll give him credit. He has the ending of the game. He has one of his best lines ever, which is he comes back right at the end, and this is after Marissa and Nate have already finished the plot, and he's being all nice to Marissa Chase because of course he is, and she refers to him as Mr. Sullivan, and he goes, no, Mr. Sullivan is what the IRS calls me or something. Which is great.
That's good. It's a good line. It's a good line.
So speaking of characters, what did you guys think of this game, the series villains? Because like the villains to me have always been, they are very good at making you hate them.
I can't remember a single one of their names.
Same. I have a wiki up in front of me, and as I'm reading it, my mind is deleting as the names are coming through.
My problem is I can't change what I'm looking at because it's so. Look at that. You're like, oh, Nave's not paying attention anymore. Oh, look, he's back. Oh, no, he's not. Look, he's looking at something.
I think the enemies they're fine. I don't feel like any of them are really that memorable. I feel like in 4 they kind of made them more personable. Like Eddie Raja, I think in the first game is the guy. Is that
yeah,
the guy
he's
boring.
boring.
Yeah, I was like, okay, it's just like this guy. And in the second game, Lazarevich, he's just power hungry. Then in 3, you had starts with an M. That lady, right?
Marlene.
Catherine Marlowe.
Marlowe. Yeah, her. And I was like, you just feel like a, I don't know. She's not even really the big baddie at the end. You fight.
Well, yeah, because she dies in the quicksand. She dies in the quicksand.
Yeah.
She gets Boba Fetted? Or Jango Fetted?
No. Nate tries to save her, but she wants the damn ring more. So she sinks into the quicksand.
Yeah, I feel like I'm really on board with Nave there. I was like, I feel like I remember like the set pieces of Uncharted 3, but the actual narrative, I was like.
So I can remember the villains in 4, like Nadine and Rafe, because you find out the pirate captain wasn't real. Harry Flynn. Harry Flynn's the one I always remember from 2.
Right.
Because he was such a smug bastard the entire game.
Yeah, I feel like it wasn't until 4 where they kind of figured out how to really make memorable villains in this game.
Although to be fair, in Lost Legacy, I can't remember the villain of that game either.
They put all their juice into Sully. Like Sully took all the charisma.
Well, but again, these games are really all about, like we've said before, about the lead characters, about their stories, about what they go through. So the fact that the villains are all kind of, bad guy of the month, mustache twirling, I want more money, gold, power, etc. That's actually okay, I think. I don't think this game really needs compelling villains because, again, it's all about that journey.
Yeah.
As opposed to the ending.
I accidentally said something smart, too, because I said they put all the charisma into Sully because I think more than one of the games, it's like, are you betraying me, Sully? Like, are you betraying me? That's like a storyline for the first one and the fourth one, I think. And then the brother as well. It's like, I don't know who's betraying me. Someone's not telling me everything. I don't know. Because I remember that when I played the first one, I was like, okay, I've played the second one. I know you're in it. But that doesn't mean you can't betray me here. So I don't know.
Right.
You can betray me and not die. I don't know.
I was going to say 4 kind of ruins this, but like there was a great thematic book ending where in Uncharted 1, Sully's plane crashes and gets destroyed on the island. But then at the end of Uncharted 3, he has a new plane and they take off in it at the end. Nice. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love stuff like that.
Super fun.
Anyone else have any story stuff before we move on, or? It's kind of sad. Like it's hard to explain the stories fully because it's like you don't really the stories are very much just kind of like in the background, and it's more the character stuff that you follow. So you kind of have to play the games to truly experience the stories properly, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, which is it's weird too because it's like I can rattle off every character's lore in Mortal Kombat and how they died and who killed them and all kinds of random stuff, and it's like I can't name a single story beat of Uncharted 3. I know you're in jeeps and you're getting dragged at one point.
Yep.
It's
Odd
like,
Dragon.
yeah,
Yep.
I mean,
Ship is sinking at some point.
yeah. It's
What
like why
happened?
the ship sinking? I don't know. Poseidon was
Oh,
mad.
it was
I
awesome.
don't know.
So cool. It's scary.
I will say Uncharted 3 does have that like kind of like disappointing beginning where like apparently they had an entire plot line written around that character like Charlie Cutter, but he leaves the plot right after the beginning because I guess his actor they only had him for like that, so they had to really rewrite basically write him out of the plot.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Because I guess he was supposed to be like throughout the entire game, and then
Oh, nice.
scheduling conflicts kind of ruined that. Which I think is why Chloe also kind of disappears.
She comes back and hopefully, maybe down the line, I can get the game I want.
Chloe can be a mentor to Cassie.
Chloe can kiss Nadine is what we want. Thank you.
Well, so this is the thing. Cassie walks into Nadine or Chloe's office, and there's a pure of them kissing on her desk. But then you're like, "Where's Nadine?"
It's gonna be that Christmas card I saw on Twitter.
It will be the exact Christmas card, like just to spite you.
Yeah.
So we kind of ended up covering like my other points. Like I wanted to talk about like favorite storylines, characters, and moments and set pieces, but we kind of knocked that out of the way throughout this whole section. So I kind of wanted to end this off with like we kind of have already gone into it, but like what do you guys think is the future for the series?
I like theory crafting. I love theory crafting actually. What we haven't heard from Bill. Bill, what do you think Uncharted 5 is going to be if they make one?
I don't, it's funny. I really, again, after 4, I didn't think I was getting another one. So I've never given it a lot of thought and Lost Legacy,
not poisoned the well.
Yeah. I kind of was just like, oh, this is such a lovely little coda. And then of course Lost Legacy comes out and it's a different take. I agree with Liv. I'd love to see the adventures of Lost Legacy just continue down that road. I think they had a great chemistry, and yes, there's now room for romantic interests, and there's room for those characters to grow. And I don't want to see Nathan Drake again. I don't know if I want to see another movie again. I saw that movie in theaters.
Think that's gonna happen.
Is it? Yeah. Are they making another one? I mean, I'm sure they are. Yeah.
I haven't watched it because I just like I don't know. I don't trust it.
It's perfectly fine. It is about as fine. It's about as meh as a movie gets. It exists on this planet, and the planet is no worse or better for it. It's just there, and it's fine. I find it perfectly acceptable.
I haven't seen it, but man, there was very rarely do I laugh in like a trailer. But like, there's that scene where Tom Holland's fighting that big guy, and he's speaking in like Scottish English, and then he just goes, "What?" And then because it's just so stupid. It's just such a dumb joke, but it made me laugh pretty hard. And I'm like, maybe I'll go see this, and then I forgot about it until you brought it up just now.
Yeah, I saw it. I actually saw it in theaters because one of those weekends, like I have literally nothing to do, and this is the only thing that's available. Why not? How bad could this possibly be? And it's not as bad as a lot of people say, but it's not great either. It's a real big. It exists, and you can see it if you want or don't. I could not have less of opinion on the Uncharted movie, which is why I don't even know why I brought it up. But as far as the future of the series, I would like to see that continue if they're going to do it. I don't want to see Nathan Drake again in the movie. I don't want to see another Nathan Drake story. I think his story is done. Him and Elena, just rest. Just take a break.
We finally we fell back in love. We're like, this is why I love you. You're so good at this. Let's
at home. Yeah. Weekends at Costco. If you want to like leap over, like the lady passing out these samples, by all means, get crazy with yourself. That's fine. I don't know. They go to Home Depot and they pick out shelving. And Nathan Drake, he's really bad at playing up shelving, even though he's like the Superman. I don't know. That's what their life should be from now on. No more adventures. You're done. Let
Bill,
someone else have the fun times.
I stand alone over here. What do you think? What do you think about the yarn I spun? I thought it was a kind of a cool story.
You know, the ending of 4 leaves a lot open to interpretation because there's a pretty sizable time skip from the end of the main plot to the epilogue.
Mhm.
And we find Lost Legacy happens during that time period. But we also know that Sam and Sully went off on a bunch of adventures. There's potential for games based around that, along with more like Chloe and Nadine games.
That's true. I forgot about that. You're right. They do have that. They kind of do
A
go
little
off on their own.
postcard.
Uh-huh.
I would love like Lost Legacy sized games that are just like $30-$40 that just take place with just pick any random 2 characters and just toss them into a situation and let's just go have fun. Like, I mean, that's a good idea, I think, as well, in between the giant $700 million AAA game.
That's a good idea. That's really a thought. Yeah.
I honestly enjoy being able to finish a game in a sitting, so I'm all for that.
Oh, dude, tell me about it. I am on like week 3 of Witcher 3. I'm dying. I've already beaten this game. Like, what am I doing? But it's just so good.
I feel you. I'm playing Control for the 3rd time because I love that game. So, that's all I've been playing.
I'm playing Persona 4 Golden for like the 9th time right now. So,
oh my god, I've been eyeballing it too, but I've got to play 3. I cannot, in good conscience, play 4 again for the 5th time and not have played 3 ever. And 3 Reload just came out, but now because they're like, oh, the DLC's coming in September, and I'm like, well, now I'm not even gonna play 3. I'm just gonna wait for the DLC to come out so that I could play it all at once. So I'm glad I didn't play 3 now. I'm gonna go play Cyberpunk now or something. Get lost in that.
Play through Uncharted again.
Man, I probably need to. I really don't know what happened in 3. I have no idea.
I know. I feel like I need to play it because of our conversation.
I was hoping that like you guys would talk about it and it would remind me, but you guys were talking about it and I was blank the whole time. I was like, I really don't know what you're talking about.
I'm doing a replay of the entire series right now, and 3 is the next one on the list. So I'm about to jump back into it. So I'm actually really curious to see how it holds up from a second playthrough.
Especially since I came in hard after Liv was like, hey, Uncharted 2 is the best. And then I was like, I think I like Uncharted 3 more than Uncharted 2. I don't remember why. I just remember thinking that when I beat 3. I was like, that was better than 2. And then I moved on. But now that I've been talking about it for almost 2 hours, I don't think I like Uncharted 3 as much as 2. I really don't. I can talk myself out of it.
Like, I won't lie. Like when I finished 2 for my most recent playthrough, like once I got to the credits, I was like, that game still is just as good as it was back in 2009. I want to say, 2009. Ooh, yeah, God, that was a long time ago. Anyways, 2 is held up remarkably, and I'm curious to see how 3 holds up.
I played through everything during COVID. I was like, I'm going to do an Uncharted replay. I mean, I've played each game at least 2 or 3 times. And, just get through. If you're going to do it, just like get through the first game. And the rest it gets better from there.
Sure does.
That being said, I still enjoyed my replay of 1, other than the final boss, but...
Yeah, I feel like I'd have a higher opinion of 1 if I didn't. My last playthrough wasn't on the hardest difficulty and miserable the whole time.
That's oof.
Yeah, that's a no for me.
Yeah,
it's
not worth it.
No.
Did you guys?
The only game worth playing on a hard difficulty is Halo, because that game's fun.
Did you guys ever do the cheat code Donut Drake?
Oh,
No.
It's so funny.
I don't think I have.
There's a cheat code that you can enter in. It's called Donut Drake, and it just makes Drake really like fat for no reason.
Yeah, there's a trophy. I think they call them tweaks in the game, and you like turn on Donut Drake, and then you do a speed run, and if you beat the game, there's like a special achievement for it, and
That's
it's just
really
so funny. He looks so funny.
He looks so gooberish, like even more so.
We haven't mentioned at all is the Uncharted games have multiplayer.
Oh yeah, they do.
For some, as was the fashion of the day. Yes,
yeah,
everything had that multiplayer. Yeah,
I tried Uncharted 4, but I couldn't get into it.
It's not great. because
It's
that's the problem. Is I come from Xbox, so I'm like, oh man, I loved Uncharted 2. Let's play the multiplayer, which was dead. I'm pretty sure Uncharted 3 was out at the time, but I played it for a minute, and I was like, just thinking of Gears of War 3 the whole time, which is the multiplayer is just desperately trying to be, but it's like Gears of War 3 is just so absurd. It is just 3 times the story of Uncharted 3, where it's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's just giblets and kidneys flying everywhere all the time. Whereas the multiplayer in Uncharted 3 is just like, it feels like all of the random AA games that you play, but it feels good. It's just the structure of a AA game. It's so strange. Because The Last of Us's multiplayer was actually really good.
Still active to this day.
Yeah. With like the traps and stuff. Like I liked The Last of Us because it's a lot more like skittish, which makes sense. Like it's so cool that how Naughty Dog can make 2 extremely similar games, but whenever you observe, like really like look at them with a magnifying glass, there's so many different things that differentiate themselves from each other. Like it's just with the style and the play style and like the mechanics and stuff like that. They all lean into you're either skittish and hiding, or it's this really crazy scramble, like and chaotic, and it's so cool. Naughty Dog's awesome.
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit bummed that Uncharted 4 wasn't uncarded.
Yeah, and The Fast of Us, dude, man, they really lost their way. They lost their way.
I love that joke because it's like Naughty Dog's MO for a while was literally make 3 games, then make a kart racer. And everybody was really hoping for uncarded, like after Uncharted 3.
Hey man, it could still happen, dude. Naughty Dog, you don't know what they're doing now that Factions is gone. It could be a fucking giant kart racing game that has all their franchises together. Like it could be. They're doing live services over there at Sony, man. I would buy a PS5 for the Uncharted kart collection.
Oh, I just completely. I didn't even think of it. We didn't talk. Did anyone actually play a Fight for Fortune?
That's a card game, right?
Okay, the silence leads me to say no. Yeah, so there was Sony Bend actually made 2 Uncharted games. They made Golden Abyss, and then they also made Uncharted Fight for Fortune, which was a collectible card-based game that you could play on your Vita.
Oh, weird.
It's like Yu-Gi-Oh! I summoned Sully in face down defense position.
It was kind of like that. It was like you got cards and it was only, I don't even think you can play it anymore. I think it's lost to time.
Yeah.
You had to use the Vita's version of Street Pass, which I don't think anybody used.
I didn't even know it existed.
No, same.
I tried to use it once and I pinged with some guy like that was like in the radius, but it was so like boring and like lifeless.
It sounds just dreary. Dreary.
The card game was okay from what I remember. I'm sure like Aaron from Superpod Saga would know, like, because he's obsessed with card games. But
he's screaming like with his fist in the air at us right now.
I just figured I'd mention Fight for Fortune because it does exist. Well,
yeah.
It existed. I don't think you can play it anymore.
Interesting.
I think that's just about it, though. Unless anyone has any final thoughts on Uncharted.
I wonder if anyone's made like a physical version of that game you're talking about. Because I bet it wouldn't be hard. Like I know they did it with Inscription. I mean, Inscription was good and popular, so that's one thing. But like I bet you get to bring this to the attention of someone who has the ability to make cards, like just to have like something like that, make a cool YouTube video.
Yeah. I'd be interested.
But yeah, so I want to thank you guys for joining me for this. This was a really fun conversation. I love talking about games that I usually can't with Alex because she doesn't like them. But hi,
you think that maybe she would like watching these because these games, like we were saying, with all of the spectacle and all the set pieces, they're very much like Marvel movie kind of games, and it's like I wonder how much she would enjoy watching you just stream it or something.
See, she might like 4 because she's a One Piece fan and she loves pirate like stuff like that. But I don't know.
1 kind of has that too, a little bit.
True. I think the problem is like if like she was like back in the day, maybe nowadays she'd just like get her iPad out and probably watch anime on it and not pay attention. Or she'd be playing Stardew Valley in the corner on her Switch.
New update came out, so
I don't know if she even knows about that. I should probably let her know.
It's only on PC, so she's playing on console. It hasn't dropped
yeah.
yet.
She hasn't yet. But yeah, so I'd like you guys to plug all your stuff one more time before we sign this off. So I'll let Liv start.
Well, thank you for having us, Bill. It was great. I love Uncharted. I could always talk about it anytime. I'm Liv, and I have a new project in the works. It's if you go to YouTube and you see the top tenors, that's me and my friend James, and content is in pre-production, but we're on our way. And if you like basketball and video games, just follow me on Twitter at obuyer10.
Nice. And I'll be sure to include everybody's links in the description. Nave?
I hang out over at Gaming Together, Cooperative Podcast. We are extremely crazy over there. We try to talk about multiplayer games, not always. Like like I said before, our next episode is going to be about a battle royale from all of our guests, of which Liv and Bill both were. Not the new Bill. We need to get you on our show also. We need to add each other on Discord or something. And but our last episodes that we had Liv on for Golf with Your Friends, where she substituted for Philip because Philip had stuff going on. And Bill was on our Mario Kart episode, which we did play Mario Kart a couple of times, and it is a lot of fun. So I'm really glad that I got my Switch dusted off for that.
Nice. And Bill?
Yeah, once again, my show is entitled A Gamer Looks at 40. It's a bunch of elderly people like myself, elderly people being over 40. I'm 43. And it's basically people telling their stories about how games affected their lives. Sometimes it's fun and silly, and sometimes it gets serious. Sometimes people use games or have used games to get through things in their life. Right now, I'm working on a Final Fantasy series. Just started it. The next episode, as of this recording, is a conversation with Arnie Roth, who's the composer of the Distant Worlds orchestra series, the Final Fantasy Distant Worlds series. So we have a conversation. It's awesome. I'm so happy I was able to get him on the show and talk about his inspirations for it, how he got into video game, orchestra music, etc. So really cool conversation with him. And yes, if you dig old games and nostalgic stories, A Gamer Looks at 40, and website is A Gamer Looks at 40.com.
Nice. So, like I said, I will have all those links in the description for everyone to be able to find. And with that, everybody, once again, thanks for joining us on the Gaming and Collecting Podcast. The Gaming and Collecting Podcast can be found on all your major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. We also have video versions of the podcast now on YouTube. And if you'd like, you can find all of our links at linktree/thebarberwhogames. And if you would also like, you can join the GNC Podcast Network Discord server to find all things GNC, the 3DO experience, Geek Addicts, talk gaming, anime, or just general nonsense. We're pretty nice people over there. Alex gets a little crazy sometimes, but hey, that's the GNC way. And with that, everybody, we will see you all later.
Please don't make fun of my apartment.